Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Buckeye Blitz, and welcome in for Buckeye Friday. Great to have you along on this journey. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join me and my normal Buckeye Friday rants. Thank you for choosing to listen today. I know that there's a lot of choices out there for Buckeye football content, so appreciate your listenership. If you could, you wouldn't mind, hit the like button. Free for you, good for us, because it helps me continue to see who's watching, who's listening, and populate up to the top of the Buckeye football content on YouTube. So thanks for that. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. It's just a small thing. And speaking of small things, this isn't really that small. We are now 99 days away from week 0, so we're under 100 days from football returning. Not Buckeye football, but college football, so that's something. And so hang in there. We're under the 100-day mark for those of you that don't do other sports or haven't really paid that much attention to baseball or those type of things. So we're creeping up there. We're almost to June and summer camps. So there is a 7-on-7 going on in Massillon today. So if you're over in the Massillon area, maybe you can pop by and peek at that or something. I don't think you'll be able to get in, but at least you could peek at it. So hang in there. We're almost there. So I've had a few requests to do this, and it's almost like summarizing my state of the position coming out of spring. So what I expect, I guess, for 2023 for both sides of the ball. I'll start with offense, and then I only have a couple questions to get to for Q&A Tuesday, so maybe I'll do the defense there. But I guess, and let's start with this. This is one of the questions, and it's just going to lead us right into the conversation. It's what's the over-under for wins? The Vegas odds are 10.5. So I'm 100% taking the over. I truly believe they'll have at least 11 wins. Anything can happen on any given Saturday. If Ohio State were to drop a game during the regular season, it will not be in Ann Arbor this year. And we get Penn State at home, which I think helps a lot. We don't have to go play a whiteout there, so that helps, and it's in the middle of the season after a tough road game at Notre Dame. So the two games on my radar, if you really get down to it, the two games on my radar are the Notre Dame game, because they brought in Sam Hartman. I don't know who he's going to throw to, but still, they brought in Sam Hartman. He can sling it a little bit. And then at Wisconsin, for whatever reason, Wisconsin is just a tough place to play. And if it's a night game, even worse. And then against Fickell, who, let's be honest, he's a great coach, and he's a great defensive mind. So that coupled with, this just isn't an easy layup schedule. They're starting on the road in a Big Ten matchup at Indiana. And so, I knew we did that a few years ago, and J.K. Dobbins, that was kind of his coming out party as a true freshman, and Mike Weber, I believe, was injured, and yeah, so it was a rough, they won the game, but that's a rough way to start the year, starting with right out of the gate with Big Ten play. I don't like it. I never have liked it. I don't understand that, but I also didn't love Oregon the second game of the year a couple years ago when, that's just the way the scheduling fell. So, I still stick to the fact that it'll be over 10.5 wins. Could something crazy happen somewhere along the line? Sure. I don't expect it to. I do think Ohio State can lean early on the running game heavily and, grind it out and keep other offenses off the field, kind of the way we used to do it, and let Kyle McCord or Devin Brown settle in, and they'll be just fine. But, we shall see. As far as other things, before I get into all of my points, I'm going to ask you guys really kindly again, just a public service announcement. Don't tweet negatively at recruits. Like, sometimes recruits tweet stuff out, and I'll, put the Trey Sermon thing where he looks at the camera or, something like that just to like encourage them, or an OHIO, but please don't tweet negative things at 18-year-old kids. Just don't do it. That's all. That's going to be my end of my point on that. But so position overview coming out of spring ball. I did that, kind of how I felt. Some things have changed because we brought in Tywan Malone, we brought in Josh Simmons. There's been a couple, of the recent additions, so that I feel a little bit better in some of those position groups that I did before. So this is really a holistic view of the offense. So I do not expect either Kyle McCord or Devin Brown to set the world on fire, and I don't think they're going to have to carry the team the way that CJ Stroud did, say, like in the Peach Bowl, or even in the 2022 season. Sometimes I felt like we just got really pass happy because our running backs were just so banged up. As long as everybody stays healthy, I don't think whoever the starter is going to have to do that. I just don't believe that. If I'm being completely honest, I still think that there's truly an honest-to-goodness quarterback competition. It sucked that Devin Brown hurt his finger on his throwing hand right before the spring game, because I was really looking forward to watching him in the spring game. I was there. Hopefully you guys saw some of my recordings. I really enjoyed watching Carnell Tate as well. So, like I said, he's the real deal. So we'll see. I think there's going to be a real competition. I do think Devin Brown's going to have to take it from Kyle McCord. I think Kyle McCord, at least right now, just coming out of the spring, the way everything looked, is in the lead. I also know with the amount of weapons that are on this team, I don't think, whoever starts is going to have to be a world beater, and I kind of alluded to that earlier. If we can keep him upright, we're going to be okay. So that's the key, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I do like the fact that McCord and Brown are both willing runners, and they're going to go pick up that easy 3 or 4 yards when it's there to keep a drive alive and not look for the home run ball. I feel like, and a lot of us last year, the last 2 years have been screaming that at CJ Stroud. There were so many times where he could pick up 7 or 8 yards, get out of bounds, keep a drive alive, but he's just, eyes were always downfield looking to throw. And you saw the difference that made in the Georgia game. Just that little bit. Just, 4 or 5 yards here, 2-3 yards here, big run at the end of the game. Huge difference. Huge. And that's what Justin Fields brought, too, that I felt like was an interesting dimension of the offense, where he was a very skilled runner, and he had a rocket for an arm. But he had more of a willingness to run than CJ Stroud, and I think that was the difference in the offense the last 2 years. With that said, because of, like I mentioned, the offensive line's inexperience, the running game is going to be a big emphasis, especially early on in the first 3 or 4 games. I'm absolutely shocked, honestly, that all 5 running backs stuck around and didn't hit the portal. I think all 5 could probably start at Power 5 schools, quite honestly. I don't know what else to say other than that. I expected, for Chip Trainum, he'd already transferred once. He's here. He's back in the running back room, kind of where he wanted to be anyways, so why would he leave? And he had a really good spring. He, started against Michigan. Evan Pryor couldn't practice this spring, and he's maybe not quite 100% by fall camp. Probably will be, but maybe not. And the one thing that people, I guess, gloss over with Evan Pryor, he didn't tear his ACL. He tore his PCL. So that tends to be a little bit of a longer recovery than an ACL. It just takes a little while longer to get everything back, and the shiftiness and everything. So that's probably why. And then if you look ahead to next year too, I think Pryor and Dallin Hayden, and maybe if I don't know if Chip has another year or not. That's a good question. If Pryor and Pryor and Hayden are healthy, the 2024 season, that looks like a great year for those two as well. So I think both are still going to get touches this year. I think you'll probably see Evan Pryor a little later in the year. I think Dallin Hayden probably a little more early in the year. And what I'm curious about is how they use Xavier Johnson and Evan Pryor if Pryor's ready to go, and how that intermixes, but that's a conversation for a whole nother day. But I like the running back room. I expect that they are going to use them early and often and get the road grader mentality back, get that offensive line ready to move piles downhill. And the reason I say that is, the last couple of years, quite honestly, Michigan's been dominant on the defensive line and offensive line, and that's why we've lost. I truly believe that. You win in the trenches in that game, and then you win the game typically. So I don't know what happened last year because our offensive line was very talented, but I just felt like no matter what they did, because there was no consistency with the running back room, so it was hard for the linemen to kind of get in that rhythm with whoever was running the ball. I'll leave it at that. So here's my biggest question, and I just heard this recently, like within the last week. Tony Alford described Chip Trayanum as Mayan Williams with better speed. So where does that leave Mayan Williams? I'm kind of lost on that. All spring I kept kind of advocating for Trayanum to kind of take over that Mitch Rossi type role, because Rossi wasn't a big guy. He was a great blocker, but he wasn't a big guy. And then you could have Trayanum and either Henderson, Hayden, Williams, Pryor in the backfield, or Xavier Johnson in the backfield with Trayanum, in some sort of 12 personnel. So we'll see. But I'm not sure how I even feel about that. What I do feel, or what I did feel like last year, I guess, is over the last couple of years, I feel like the O-line seemed to really respond to Mayan Williams' heart and his leg drive and his determination to keep the pile moving forward, and it seemed like they gelled around him and appreciated him. And I hope they have the same reaction to, a healthy Travion Henderson and so on and so forth, and they can get in a rhythm. And I wouldn't be surprised if both backs go over 1,000 yards easily if they both stay healthy, and we do lean on that running game early and often. If you rewind to 2019, and I don't have this in my show notes, but J.K. Dobbins had over 2,000 yards, and Ryan Day, he wasn't just an air raid guy. He knew he had a stud, and he used him that way. And if you look at like how dominant he was, even in that Michigan game at the end, he was phenomenal. Like one of the best runs, best runs of a running back since like the Ezekiel Elliott days of running through Alabama and Oregon all the way through the playoffs in Wisconsin. So, just one of those things. I know Coach Day isn't afraid to use his backs if he's got them, and I think he's got them. So watch for that. That would be what my takeaway is. The wide receivers, this was like the easiest group I did, and I say this because I'm actually forward looking at this. So Marv and Emeka are going to be first round draft picks without a doubt, barring significant injury or something, but or just a complete let up by one of them, but I don't see that happening. The next tier, you have Ballard, Xavier Johnson, Julian Fleming, then Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss coming in. What I desperately want to see is two or more of that combination of Ballard, Tate, and Inniss getting a lot of reps to get them ready for 2024. The reason is, and I hit on this when I talked about the Peach Bowl before, when Marv went down, it was clear that like last year's guys weren't quite ready for that role. I'm not sure what Julian Fleming was doing, and so we have this slant to Xavier Johnson at the end of the game, and it doesn't get caught, and then we miss a 50-yard field goal. And so I'm not hating on Xavier or Jaden or Julian. I'm not hating on them, but what I'm saying is let's have that next crop of guys ready to go. And I know Coach Hart will, but in my mind, what would 7 or 10 more yards done to get Noah Ruggles that much closer to make it a 40-yard field goal to 38-yard field goal where the guy's like almost automatic? Just saying. So I'm sure Coach Hart, he'll have a plan. He's got one of the most crazy talented rooms, and then following right behind is going to be Jeremiah Smith and Mylan Graham. So you just keep that wave of studs coming, and we're going to be all right. But I look forward to this year. I think Marvin and Mecca are going to have great years. The reason I mention it kind of like that is I'm going to roll right into the tight end room. Cade Stover's back, Joe Royer's back, G. Scott is back, and I hit on Marvin Emeka, and now you added Jelani Thurman, who has already lost his black stripe and is probably what I would say the most talented actual tight end in the group, and not like a converted tight end. Joe Royer is very talented, don't get me wrong, but Jelani Thurman, has a because he came in and lost his black stripe so early, kind of gives me pause to think he could be the best of the group. I actually think Stover will end up being the third leading receiver on the team. I think he'll have over 28 receptions this year, provided he plays all year. The reason I say that is because I expect, especially probably the first 6 games, to see a lot more 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends, probably maybe 40% of the time until the offensive line gets settled in, which will lead to Cade Stover being on the field more and leaking out and catching those passes over the middle and those 4 and 5 yard gains, and he is a weapon. Like you could see, because they're so focused on Marvin Emeka on the outside, and he run 12 personnel, and Cade Stover runs a post down the middle. He'd been open multiple times, and it actually happened in a spring game. McCord just overthrew him. So that said, 12 personnel, expect it. And I think they're going to use it to run the ball too. And to settle in that offensive line, and rolling right into the offensive line. This is one of my biggest areas of concern. It will remain that way until they prove it. I still would have really liked to have seen them add a starting left tackle in the portal, and let Josh Fryer stay at right tackle. But if Justin Fry believes in Josh Fryer, so do I. And I like Fryer. I thought he was probably 6th man of the year last year. I actually thought there were probably at least 5 games that he probably should have started at either right tackle or right guard when Matt Jones was banged up, and then DeJuan Jones was kind of banged up. Story for another day, but watching him coming off the ball on the right side, it was just a different look than Matt Jones because of his clown shoe, and then DeJuan Jones when he was banged up. So that's what I'm going to say about this. If that's kind of where I'm at. If OSU is going to win it all, and the O-line will have to play above average. They may not be elite. We have a couple. I think Donovan Jackson's probably the best offensive lineman on a team, and I think he is elite. Beyond, I guess it's at the tackle position. I'm very comfortable with Donovan Jackson, Carson Hinsman, and Matthew Jones. I don't see really any other glaring weaknesses on the offensive side of the football to me so far, obviously barring injury, but Donovan Jackson, Matt Jones, proven commodities, so I think we're going to be okay. Carson Hinsman reminds me a lot of Harry Miller when he first came in, so I think they're going to be just fine there. So yeah, there you have it, folks. I hope that helps. If you didn't want to watch all, my breakdown of position by position that I did, I understand. You can go back. They're still on the, they're up on my channel, my YouTube channel, and I think they're even loaded on my website, which is thebuckeyeblitz.godaddysites.com. So I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget to send your questions in either via our Facebook page, which is _Buckeye Blitz podcast, or comment here on YouTube, or the website I mentioned, which is thebuckeyeblitz.godaddysites.com, because Q&A Tuesday is right around the corner. So I hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. See you then. Go Bucks.